Good day, Hanover Church family. Pastor Pete here. This is your end of the week pastor's update. Would you please be praying for the church right now? We're doing something new in the church that was approved at our last council meeting, and that's to develop a spiritual leadership team. For years and years, decades, even a couple of hundred years, when the Church of the Brethren was first getting started, they had what was called elders that would oversee the work of the local congregations. And those elders would move around from church to church and provide leadership where there wasn't strong leadership in a particular congregation that was getting up and running. And it worked well for a long, long time, but there came a time when maybe 50 years ago, maybe a little longer than that even, when it had grown sour. The whole idea of having elders became a kind of a strong man pushing and forcing their way on congregations. And so the Church of the Brethren disbanded having elders. And so the whole idea of who are the spiritual leaders of the church then began to rest on the pastors. And so for our congregation, we've had Pastor Matt and myself be the official elders of the church. And everything kind of rides on what we decide as we share with the board, of course, and the board approves what's going on in the church. And there's nothing wrong with that. And Pastor Matt and I are happy to be considered elders here at the church. But there's safety in numbers. And so one of there's wisdom in many counselors, and even in several places in the New Testament, it suggests that Paul was encouraging that Timothy or Titus be developing multiple elders in church communities. And so we've had a discussion about it as a church and decided that we need to develop a spiritual leadership team that will advise and encourage and help develop the spiritual life of the church. Now, there's some responsibilities that will go along with this spiritual leadership team to maintain the doctrinal fidelity of the church, to make sure that we are staying on course theologically in the midst of cultural issues that are affecting the life of all of the churches around us. This team will also be praying regularly for the church, especially when there's a special need. The team will monitor the overall spiritual health of this church. We will be addressing conflicts and church discipline as necessary in accordance with the conflict resolution guidelines that the church approved a couple of years ago. We'll help to oversee those who become members here. We'll establish communication with the congregation concerning the vision statement, the strategic direction that the church is moving into, and in coordination with the board, the spiritual leadership team will guide and oversee implementing action plans for the different commissions and committees. And maybe one of the most crucial things, as far as I'm concerned, is that they will be a sounding board for Pastor Matt and myself to help us, to support us, to provide encouragement and prayer for both the senior and associate pastors at the church. And so we have been meeting, putting together a nominating committee to choose those who will be on the spiritual leadership team. Pastor Matt and Pastor Pete will be on it. There will be a deacon. There will be a couple of members at large. And so we'll be nominating those people to bring before the church council so that we have a board or a team, a spiritual leadership team, just to provide spiritual encouragement to the congregation. So if you'd be praying about that the right people will get put onto that committee, I sure would appreciate that. Hey, this Sunday, I encourage you to come out to church. Pastor Matt's going to be opening the Word, and I'm really enjoying listening to him preach. And one of the things that I was able to do this week was to read the transcript of his sermon that he'll be preaching on Sunday, because we send that transcript out to those who cannot be here and don't have access to a computer so that they can at least read the sermon. And it's an excellent sermon. He's going to be preaching about what it means to be the body of Christ here in the local congregation. Not to come to church, but to be the church. So come on out, encourage Matt by being here. Our church services are at 9:00. We encourage you to come on out to that if you can. If not, at least press the button on your website and be able to watch us online. And if you have a prayer request, please send it in. Happy to be praying for you. And know that we love you, that we miss some of you that just haven't been able to come out but would like to. And we encourage you to come out when you can. Until then, have a great rest of your week.